Good afternoon. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor, Madison365, with your daily update for Friday, April 30th. It's the last day of the week, the last day of the month, and today we are brought to you by the Just Research Program at the University of Wisconsin. They're looking for Black adults age 40 and older to take a very short 10-minute online survey about clinical trials. Here's the problem. Most medicines, treatments, therapies for diseases are tested on white people, even those that are trying to treat diabetes, sickle cell, lupus, diseases that disproportionately affect Black people. So medical researchers need more Black people in clinical trials, but they're not sure how to do that recruiting. They're not sure how to create those health trials that Black people will want to join. So they want to hear from you. It says in a clinical trial, they're not testing any medicines on you. It's just a survey about what kind of clinical trials would you perform or would you participate in. So if you're interested in helping them out, call the number there, 608-709-9470, or email justresearch@ictr.wisc.edu. All right, the headline for me today is variants. I am very unhappy with the variant situation right now, and here's why. They've been reporting the presence of variants, they being the state of Wisconsin, has been reporting the presence of variants for almost 2 months now on a usually weekly basis. Most Thursdays, there's been a couple they've missed, but most Thursdays in the past couple of months, they've given us an update. And what they're doing is you can't tell just from a regular test, if it's positive or negative, that's all it tells you. It doesn't tell you which variant it is. You have to actually sequence the genome of the positive virus test to see which variant it is. Okay, so they're doing it they're taking random samples of positive cases and sequencing those genomes, and they're telling us how many of those are these various variants. Okay, now since they've started this almost 2 months now, they've done this about 11,000 times. Okay, they've taken 11,000 samples and sequenced them, and about 10.5% are some form of variant. Relatively small number. Okay, that's over the past 2 months. Now here's the problem. Just in the past week, they've only reporting about 350 samples. Right? I gotta do this math to make sure I was an English major, so I don't do math in my head very well. So, 363 samples in the past week. Of those, 189 were UK variant. That is 52%. In the past week, 52% of positive samples were UK variant. I feel like that's tremendously frightening news. It hasn't translated yet to bad news writ large, right? We're still I'll get to our current statistics in a minute. So it has. I can't say that the presence of that variant is like catastrophic or crisis at this point. That's a very frightening statistic to me, and here's why: that UK variant B117, you probably heard about it, is more contagious. The vaccine still prevents it, and it's not particularly more dangerous to you as an individual. However, is it more dangerous to the community because it's more transmissible, and it seems to be more transmissible in children, right? Remember, going all the way back, we've always said little kids don't get COVID that much, and then when they do, it's not very bad, and they don't transmit it very much. So that's why eventually we were able to kind of open schools up again. Schools are open right now for the most part, and half of our new cases are UK variant, which is very transmissible among children who can't get vaccinated yet. This concerns me a great deal. Now, if these samples, if these 363 samples that we've done in the past week are truly random and representative, that means of the 789 new cases we have today, it is reasonable to believe that about 400 are UK variant. That's that's that worries me. Um, I'll just mention real quickly. These are less worrisome. The South Africa variant, only 2 new cases of that, so for a total of 30. 8 new cases of the Brazil variant, so for a total of 28 now, and 30 new cases of California variant, which is now 394. I should say 707 total cases of UK variant have been identified. 189 of those just in the past week. Um, so, like I said, overall numbers though are okay right now. 789 new cases, pretty similar to where we were a week ago. We've seen this sort of weekly pattern where we get about 300 something on Monday, and then the 800s to 700, 800 the rest of the week. So we're still pretty consistent with what we were last week, each on a day-to-day basis. Our positive test rate is 3.2% for the past 3 days, and basically for the past little over a week, we've been hovering right just above 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, right in that range, which is not great. I would love it to be below 3.0. That 3.0 is kind of the threshold where you want it, but 3.2 consistently for a week is fine. Okay. I'm a little concerned though that if half of our cases are UK variant and schools are open and we're not being careful and we're easing restrictions and we're opening restaurants up to 75% in Dane County, and the rest of the state restaurants are kind of open for the most part. I'm worried that we're going to start seeing that 3.2 go up to 3.5, 3.8, 4.2. Because that variant is so much more transmissible. At the same time that we are slowing down vaccinations, right? Our vaccines are still we're getting a lot more people vaccinated than are getting infected, right? We're averaging right now 623 new cases per day, but 36,000 vaccinations a day, right? So we're still vaccinating people a lot faster than we are seeing cases spread. So that's good. I would rather this not be a race, though. You know what I mean? I would rather just have transmission nice and low, 1.5%, 2%, so we can just focus on getting vaccinated. Now, the vaccine situation beyond that, 36,000 a day is much lower than it has been in the past couple of weeks. It was 64,000 a day a couple of weeks ago. So I don't like that that's slowing down, and I hope it doesn't continue. Right now, we have 33.8% of the entire population of the adult population, has had both shots or has had one Johnson & Johnson shot. They're fully vaccinated. I'm in that group. I have one more week before I'm, considered to be fully immune. So I'm still masking and distancing and all that. And I will continue to, until this thing is completely passed. We need to get that number to 80. And the slower we go, the longer it's going to take to get there. So if you are in that camp where you are just, you're eligible, you can get the shot, it's going to be inconvenient, but doable for you, and just kind of haven't got around to it yet, now's the time. Now is the time. Let's do our part. You can be one of those people, one of the 38,000, one of the 40,000 who gets it tomorrow and can push that number back up. We all have a tiny little part to play by just getting vaccinated. It's not just for you to get vaccinated; it's for the rest of us as well. Um, good questions here. Uh, Dolores asks, "Does the Pfizer vaccine protect against the UK variant?" Yes, as far as anybody can tell, all the evidence indicates that all of the available vaccines protect against the variants. That's all the more reason to get vaccinated. Um, Tammy has the same question. Yes, the current information, the current evidence is that all the vaccines. There's too many words to start with V. The vaccine variant virus. All the vaccines are effective against all the variants because of the way these vaccines are designed. Your immune system creates antibodies against coronavirus of all sorts, right? So get your vaccines if you can. Um, Tanya asks, assume this variant explosion be taken into account by the health department. I believe they're definitely aware of it, and that's why they're doing it, right? That's why it's the health department, it's the state health department that is doing the testing, that is reporting the results to us. Should we brace ourselves for school closings and more restrictions? No. Not because we shouldn't, but because the state Supreme Court has made it very clear that it does not feel, it's the opinion of the current Supreme Court that Governor Evers does not have the authority to order any more restrictions. And we know that the legislature is not going to do anything in terms of restrictions. Um, I would not be surprised to see more local restrictions either pulled back or extended. Rock County, for example, is extending its current orders a little bit. Now, I will say Dane County is easing restrictions, but the positive test rate here in Dane County is 1.1. So, indication, and frankly, Dane County is ahead of the rest of the state in terms of vaccinations. Dane County is very, more or less pretty privileged population. There's a lot of work going on to get um, to there are vulnerable populations in Dane County, and there's a lot of work going on to get vaccines to those folks. But by and large, Dane County is ahead of the rest of the state in those measures. So therefore, Dane County, one of the most conservative places in terms of those measures, has eased them considerably. I wouldn't be surprised to see Milwaukee County, Rock County, Racine County, some of those spots start to pull back a little bit or extend current orders, that kind of thing. So it's a good question. But again, it's not just the variants, but it's the variants. But what we'd have to see before things would really change, I think, in terms of orders, would be if the variants caused an explosion in cases, right? A higher percentage of the cases being variants is one thing. Those variants then causing more cases, that's the natural thing that's going to happen next. But from a public policy perspective, they're not going to change anything just based on the variants. They're going to change it based on um, the overall spread numbers. So if we can get this clamped down and keep the variants under wraps and keep it from, you know, keep that spike from happening, then we'll probably be okay. But again, that's going to be on us, right? To get vaccinated, and until we're all vaccinated, to keep our masks on and keep our distance and all that stuff. So I think it's manageable. Like I said, it hasn't. This is not terrible, terrible crisis news yet. It's just very concerning that it is logical that all these numbers that are doing okay right now might get bad because of these variants. Um, and I appreciate the questions. This is true. Leslie said schools are quarantining classrooms with positive cases. I want to say one thing about schools, generally speaking. One of the reasons that we haven't seen a lot of spread in schools is that schools are very stringent about all these measures. Kids have masks on all the time. Kids are kind of separated it. My kids come home from school and they say I was in zone 2 at recess today. I don't know what that means, but they've got the whole playground's like zoned out, so kids aren't mingling in big groups. And if every space, if every place with people in it was like that, this whole thing would be over by now, probably. But the fact that there's not a lot of spread in schools is not just because it doesn't spread a lot among kids. It's because kids do what they're told, right? And school districts have been very smart about um, how they're approaching this. And Leslie has the credibility here she knows what she's talking about as a teacher in the schools. That's one thing that's been pretty impressive in terms of the schools reopening, is that they've been really stringent about it. They've been very careful, right? Which is good. Okay, that's the coronavirus news for today. We have more news, including some community vaccine efforts and some other stuff, some little bit of recreational sports news for you right after this. Stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Here in the Midwest, community is important.
Having a healthcare system that's looking out for us,
that's actively addressing the racial disparities in healthcare is important.
When we can get good quality care, we can do more. We can achieve more.
We can be the kind of community we want to be, and that's really important.
UW Health. Remarkable medicine. Remarkable care.
All right. So I mentioned that there's some vulnerable populations in Dane County who have transportation challenges, just jobs that don't allow them to get away for a day or two, that kind of thing, as well as just some confusion, some Jen, that's a great point. I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. There's some people with lots of barriers to getting a vaccine, just information hesitancy, unsure. Unsure. Do I really need this? Do I really want this? So, Goodman Community Center here in Madison on the East Side has partnered with the African American Health Network, and tonight, in fact, in about 20 minutes, they're going to start. They're going to have a education session, and this on the left there is Letitia Nelson. She's the director of Goodman Community Center. She's brand new. She just started a couple months ago. And then on the right is Dr. Ava Vivian, who's a professor in the School of Pharmacy at the University of Wisconsin. And they're going to have an information session and have a doctor of pharmacy explain to you exactly how this vaccine works and what you can expect from it, and how it's not going to put a microchip in you and it's not going to make you infertile. And, I'll explain exactly that the vaccine does this job and then goes away, right? But to hear that from an actual doctor of pharmacy who looks like you, not just some random white guy on the internet, who am I? Why would you trust me? Trust Dr. Vivian, So they're going to have this at Goodman Community Center on the East Side. It's in a neighborhood. It's walkable for folks, but they're going to be giving vaccines there too. They're going to have the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine for you, and then you come back in a month and get another one. They're going to do them on Fridays for the next 3 months. Education as well as vaccine. That's the way it's going to get done. Right? Not everybody can go to a clinic. Not everybody can make an appointment. It can be but a lot of people can walk down to the community center, and hear from a trusted voice about it. I can come out here. I can come out here and shake my finger at you and tell you get your vaccine all day long. But that doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. White guy on the internet doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people. As much as people like me, people trust me, but not with stuff like this. So it's nice that Goodman Community Center is able to do this. Also today on the site, we got a preview of the Under Armour Under the Lights flag football season. Starts next weekend, but there's still teams forming. Malik Anderson, our reporter, talked with Dan Hawk. If you follow basketball, especially like girls basketball of the sort of AAU middle school age, Dan Hawk is, you know who Dan Hawk is. He's a really well-known, youth basketball coach, but he also coaches football, and he is the commissioner of the flag football league. They're going to play at Breese Stevens Field, downtown Madison, which is a fantastic, historic stadium. It's going to be Sunday nights. And the nice thing, I had a kid who played flag football, and the nice thing about it is it's not super intense. It's obviously not there's not as much contact as contact football. So if you're worried about concussions, whatever, this is a good way to introduce your kid to the sport. But also, like you come and they practice for an hour, and then you play a game, and then you have snacks and go home. It's not a huge commitment of time. It is $195, so it's not free, but there's 8 games and then playoffs and stuff every Sunday night starting next weekend through June. So nice, easy way to get into the sport. A lot of flag football kids are soccer players who are want to try football out. So the registration link and all the information is there on the website Madison365.org right now. Also today we learned that Brianna Tucker on the left and Dr. Ashok Rai on the right have been appointed to the University of Wisconsin Board of Regents by Governor Evers. Brianna is a freshman at the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point, and Ashok Rai is the CEO of Prevea Health in Green Bay. He was also named one of the most influential Asian American leaders in Wisconsin last year by us, by Madison365. So their terms begin tomorrow. They're replacing 2 regents whose terms are expiring on May 1st. And finally, Dr. and I better get his name right, Dr. Zhang. I know his name, but last name is Zhang. Dr. Russell Zhang is the co-founder of Stop AAPI Hate, and he is going to be the keynote at the University of Wisconsin Diversity Forum this year, which is November 2nd and 3rd. He's a professor of Asian American Studies at San Francisco State. And he obviously Stop AAPI Hate has been a very important organization this past year, as there's been a lot of racism against Asian people this year, and we know why, right? But he's going to be the keynote. That diversity forum is kind of a big deal. It's either very end of October, beginning of November every year, and that's at the University of Wisconsin campus, and he'll be the keynote. All right, that is the news for today. If you appreciate this coverage and you come here every day, and Jen, I wanted to mention this: a tiny number of breakthrough cases. The Wisconsin State Journal reported yesterday that over 600 people in the state of Wisconsin, the headline was like over 600 people get COVID after getting vaccinated, as if and which is just, I don't know. I hate to criticize my colleagues from the State Journal, but man, that's a terrible headline. Because then the first impression is like, well, the vaccines don't work. 600 people got it, but it's 0.03%. That means the vaccine is 99.7% effective against infection. 99.7%. Like Jen says here, a tiny number of breakthrough cases. I think you're talking 5,800 out of over 200 million. You're talking about across the nation. It's a similar number in just in Wisconsin. 600 out of a couple, several million vaccines that have been given. And those 600 cases were very mild cases. So it was okay, right? So just take note of that. When you hear people say well, I could still get it. No. Yes, you could, but it's very unlikely, first of all. And secondly, it's very mild if it does happen. So now to finish up, if you appreciate having this news for yourself every day, and you appreciate that you don't have to pay for it, you're not charged. There's no paywall on Madison365.org. You don't have to log in. You don't have to give us $5 a month. You don't, whatever. to either to see this every day or to get the news on the site. The reason we can do that, first of all, the reason we decide to do that is because we think being informed is critical to your health, to your family's health, to your democracy, to your education, just to your community. Being well informed about your community is important for you to be a member of that community. So we think I just think it's kind of ethically wrong to charge money for that. Right? The news is for everybody, not just those who can afford it. But it's not free to produce, right? We have reporters who get paid. They're professionals, right? I had to buy a camera for this show, that kind of stuff. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We run on donations from people just like you. And in the comments right now is a link to donate if you want to support us. You can make a recurring monthly donation if you want to. You can make a one-time donation if you got a few extra bucks right now. That helps us keep it free for those who don't have those few extra bucks, but still need to be informed. So we appreciate your support, and I appreciate your attention today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Sounds like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. So I hope you get out and enjoy it, and I hope you stay safe and healthy until I see you again on Monday. Take care. Have a great weekend.
This is 365 Media.